All right, everybody, peace. Welcome to the Sorry to Bother You podcast. I'm your host, Caudle, and as you guys know, I am joined by my co-host, Mr. Dre Pennington.
Hey, mm, What up, y'all? We back finally.
Dre, how you
It's
feeling,
been
man?
a while. I'm excited. It's been a while, and it's gonna be a great one. I'm feeling.
Yeah. It's good to see you again, man. I know it's been a couple weeks now.
I know it's been a while. We've been gone for a long time. Now I think about it, we haven't seen each other in a while.
It's been a while, man. A necessary break, but it's fondness makes the heart grow stronger, right? So. Right. But we've got a lot to talk about today, Dre. Obviously the playoffs have been going on since last time we've had a show. We were going to dive into that. We're going to break down each of the first round matchups and give our predictions that we had for those first round matchups. And we'll spend a little bit of the show also talking about the recent protests that's been going on across all sports, but primarily in the NBA. And then we'll also be talking about just some little other tidbits that we saw in sports. But with that being said, Dre, you ready? You ready to get into this, man?
Let's do it, man. It's been a while. I'm ready for this. I'm excited.
Nice. Let's get into it. So as you guys know, as it stated, they were recording. We're currently on the last 2 days of the first round matchups. So the playoffs been going on for about 2 weeks. As of today, most of the first round series are finished. So what we'll do is we'll give a little bit of analyzation of what we saw. And we'll just dive right into it. We'll start out with, in most people's opinion, the most popular, probably most watched series, first round series of these playoffs, the Clippers and the Mavericks. As you guys know, the Clippers won that series in 6 games. Dre, you wanna dive into this one first? You wanna talk about what you saw and maybe give your initial prediction from that series?
All right. Well, I still had the Clippers as an overwhelming favorite, I would say. I didn't think it would go 7, but I know for sure it wouldn't be a sweep. So I felt that I think that good 5-6 game range, like a really tough one for them. It was a tough series for them, so I think it was good. It kind of showed the struggles of the Clippers, and it kind of exposed them a little bit, what they needed to work on. But then also it woke them up and made them realize okay, we can't we can lose some games here and there. We can be beat.
Yeah. What else?
Okay. Also we see that Luka Doncic, it looks like an absolute monster, and Paul George had a lot of struggles, and I'm not sure why specifically. It was very weird for him to just miss shots, but I guess that's something that's people do say that that's him in the playoffs over the past couple of years, but I don't know. This was really weird. Mm-hmm. So what were you thinking? What'd you notice?
So Dre, I'll start off my prediction first. I initially picked the Clippers to go 6 games, to win the series in 6 games. And the biggest takeaway that I saw from this is that I know a lot of people were surprised to see Luka play the way he did, but that wasn't too surprising to me because, as you remember, when we did our preseason predictions, I actually said that Dallas was going to be a top 5 team in the Western Conference in 2 to 3 years, but they're just a couple of years. They're early. They're ahead of schedule. But getting back to it, the biggest takeaway that I saw from that series is that Kawhi Leonard is without a doubt, emphatically, the best player in the NBA right now. And I say that because he averaged, I think, 30 points in this series. But, Dre, you watched him play. His ability to get to his spot efficiently and also his ability to be a leader on both the offensive and defensive end really showed really showed in the prime moments of that series, primarily towards the end of Game 5 as well as Game 6. But I think Kawhi's dominance really propelled the Clippers throughout that series, especially when Paul George, like you said, wasn't hitting shots and he wasn't playing too well. Now, some people would say that if Kristaps was healthy, that the Mavericks would have taken 7 games or perhaps even won the series. I disagree with that because Porzingis was not efficient, or he was only efficient when he was playing alongside Luka. And we saw what happened when Luka hurt his ankle, that he wasn't able to get to a spot as efficiently. Guys like Marcus Morris and even Paul George, Kawhi Leonard were disrupting him on the defensive end. So he wasn't as efficient those last couple of games. But like you said, Luka is hopefully now a household name. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say by the end of next season, Luka is going to be a top 5 player in this league.
Ooh, that's tough. That's a very bold prediction.
It is. What do you think?
Yeah. So I'm thinking Kawhi did show out. Kawhi did show that he was dominant. But Luka also showed that like he's the real deal. He is the most legit thing in that from his draft. Like he showed that he was that good. Also think that what is he? What is his second year in the league?
Yeah.
Second year in the league, pushing the like maybe soon, the one of the favorite teams to win the title, pushing them to 6 games. Only second year in the league. I don't even think he's 21 yet. Man, hey, Luka looks legit, man. Luka, your prediction might be right for him to be top 5 next year. You may be right.
Right.
Luka looks dominant. He looks really good right now. And who's to say that if he doesn't hurt his ankle, he plays a little better, and maybe that was that game 4, I think.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Did they win that? They won that game.
The Clippers. I mean the Mavericks won Game 4.
Okay, so who's to say that his ankle didn't affect him for Game 5 and Game 6? I would say. So maybe if he's healthy, that they do push it to 7. Just never know. It's just how it is. It's the playoffs. Health to play a factor in these playoffs.
Right.
It's exciting though for them. I think for the Mavericks, they're missing a couple pieces, and it'll be exciting for them next year. And just getting the experience of what they did this year, I think people are awake of how good the Mavericks can be.
That's a good point. Let me ask you one question then, Dre. You're saying they need one more piece. Do you think that Tim Hardaway Jr. can be the 3rd leading scorer on that team for them to be in championship contention?
I'm not really sure because Luka's really dominant, ball dominant, and they do need floor spacing and they need that shooter. If Tim Hardaway Jr. makes that jump, like he makes a jump kind of where he's just like really, really good, super efficient and everything like that, and he's just lights out, knocked down. Mm-hmm. I think he could be, but I think the way he is now, I don't think they can. They have to find another player.
Okay.
That third piece that'll just push them over. And I think Kristaps has to be their 3rd best player on that team.
Their 3rd best player.
Yeah, I think Porzingis should be their 3rd best player, and whoever that guy is that they bring in should be the 2nd best player.
Okay. So you're thinking they should bring in? It sounds like another guard is what it sounds like.
Yeah, because I think bringing in another like big kind of shrinks the floor for them. Mm-hmm. And they don't really want that because Luka isn't the best. He isn't like a dominant 3-point shooter. He's really good at like getting to the basket. So I think another guard or another shooter definitely helps them a lot.
Okay, I agree with that. I agree. It's going to be interesting to see the moves that they make going forward. But like you said, they're a young team and they're definitely on the horizon, and they're going to be a team to be that's going to be quite dominant for the next couple of years in the Western Conference. By the way they're playing, but this is still the Clippers show, so the Clippers obviously advance, and we're gonna be on the lookout for them. But another Los Angeles team that had a little bit of trouble, not too much in the first round, was the Lakers.
Oh,
Obviously, they played the Portland Trailblazers in the first round. I had predicted them to beat Portland in 5 games, so my prediction was right for that one. Dre, I'll dive into this one first. The thing with Portland is that like your guy Damian Lillard, he isn't like you already know he's a top 5 point guard in my opinion, the second best point guard in the league, top 10 player, one of the best scorers in our league. In my opinion, he should be top 3 contention should have been top 3 for MVP race this year. But I think the problem with Dame is that he's too loyal to the city of Portland. And I say that because I'm not sure if think about how good Damian Lillard's playing right now. And they still aren't able to get past the first round. Now, granted, they're playing the best team in the Western Conference, but even if you look at last year, they struggled against a Warriors team that didn't have Kevin Durant, and they were at full capacity to come out the Trailblazers. So I say that because I don't know what else is going to be able to add under the cap space in order to bring in another star. And I say that to say that Dame should be looking to go somewhere else, but he's not because of his loyalty, which I respect. But to segue that in, Dame played amazing in Game 1. But after that, his numbers dissipated a little bit because the Lakers started trapping him off those ball screens, which is what they should have been doing from the start. And some people would say that Dame tends to shrink and pressure situations. But I wouldn't necessarily say that. I think that what a lot of teams do is they start to double team off of Dame, and they're saying, okay, we're gonna take Dame, we'll take Dame away, and we're gonna force CJ to beat us, And what we've seen is that CJ McCollum, the biggest game he's played is Game 7 last year against the Nuggets, where he scored like 37. But what we've seen is that CJ McCollum hasn't to come up that big. And I would say it's not necessarily just Dame that's the problem in Portland, which he's not the problem. The problem is that there's not enough cap space to bring everything that's necessary to be a championship team into Portland. Now, what that says moving forward, I'm not entirely sure. I would say that I think this is their peak, man. I don't see how much better they can get than this without having to rebuild, tear it down and then start over. Not a complete rebuild, but a soft rebuild. But what do you see? What do you think?
So my opinion, I agree. I disagree, but with that a little bit. So the thing about them is they're very relying on their guards. They're 2 major guards. Not having Nurkic last year killed them, I think, in the long run, because we've seen how good he actually is now, and we were like, okay, and he had. I think that's another player who kind of had his coming out party, and you notice like, okay, like he's legit, like he's good.
Mm-hmm.
So you've seen that, and then them not having another, I would say, wing defender, and their bench just was not. Just was not there. Like it was not there. Last year they had 2 wing defenders, which was I'm trying to remember the name. They lost both in free agency because I don't think they could have gave them the money that they wanted. Like you said, the salary cap is against them right now. But I think I think their bench was too young and too inexperienced to really help them. And I see them getting better, but they have to get better maybe through a couple trades and maybe a free agency pickup. And I think the thing that really shocked was how good Melo was and how he came back and was still pretty good. He was very productive for the series.
Yeah.
Now, does he stay? Does he go? Who knows? This is free. Like he's a free agent. Does Portland resign? That's up to them. And that's like now it's looking at the team. It's like, okay, like now where do they finish in the West? How good is that team now? A bunch of defenders, and then you just heavily rely. I wouldn't say you heavily rely, but you just let Dame and CJ kind of do them, and let Nurkic kind of throw in what he does, and then let the bench like do what they do and like ride them out. But can they win a chip over the Lakers or anyone like that? I don't know. It all depends on how much Dame and CJ really does, and then their bench. That's all it is. They were just too. I think they were too heavily relied upon this series. I don't think they had enough firepower to just beat the Lakers.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I'd agree with that. So, what did you see from the Lakers? Just real quick, what did you see from the Lakers?
It showed that they struggle against really good scoring guards, and it showed me that AD is one of the most different. When I say different, I mean different in a good way. He is one of the most different players in the NBA. Like he is a matchup problem, but he can he has games where he'll have 40 and like some crazy stat like 40 and 15 rebounds, but then he'll have games where he'll have like 10, 12 points, like 5 rebounds. And you're just looking like, bro, like you just killed the other day. Like what is going on? It showed that Braun could still be Braun. You know, that's just how it's gonna be. And it also showed that the Lakers are not a good shooting team, regardless of what people think or regardless. They haven't been a good shooting team for the whole year, so I just don't think it's gonna happen regardless.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Yeah, but that's something we've talked about quite a bit throughout the season, Dre, is the Lakers' poor shooting and how the shooters they do have been inconsistent. You know, shooters like Danny Green, Caldwell Pope, Kuzma, guys that were brought in to be shooters on this team just haven't been knocking shots down. And we all know with LeBron James-led teams, they all run the LeBron James system. So everybody just kind of clears out. LeBron's going to drive. He's going to kick it out to the open man for the three. And they're supposed to knock it down, but they haven't. But fortunately, like you said, they have another top 5 player on that team in Anthony Davis, which is why they've been able to be successful. I just don't think this team is that talented outside of LeBron and AD. I just don't think they're that talented.
I don't know. The one thing that they have over every team in the NBA is that they're bigger than everybody. Like they're huge as a team.
Yeah.
Like LeBron's their starting point guard at 6'8", and then it only gets. I think the shortest player is Caldwell Pope. Does he start? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So it'll be Caldwell Pope, and he's still 6'5" or 6'4".
Right.
But and then like they usually have 2 7-footers on the floor. Like that team is huge. How that runs against the next team they play in the next round, I don't know. It depends on who they are and who they get for matchups. But they're huge. They're a huge team across the board. They win the rebound margin They should win the rebounding margin every game by far.
Right. Agreed. Well, obviously they didn't struggle too much against Portland, but we'll see whoever they match up with in the second round, how they fare against them. But Dre, let's go real quick to an Eastern Conference matchup. between Indiana and
Ooh.
Miami. Now, this, in my opinion, was meant to be the most interesting first round matchup from the Eastern Conference, but ended up being a little bit of a dull series. Uh,
Very dull.
Miami ended up winning that series in 4 games. I had predicted that series going 6, but Miami winning it in 6. But Dre, you want to tackle this one first?
Yeah, I got you. So Jimmy Butler and the young guys. That's really what it is. It's literally Jimmy Butler and literally like Jimmy Butler and the young guys like just killing it. They got some vets on that team that are really like pushing that team.
Yeah.
But the emergence of Bam Adebayo being a star and playing like an all-star is complete. Like it shows how deep his game is, and just the fact of like they have so many guys that could just kill you at a point in time. Like no man is above the other. That like that heat mentality is driving their team for that series.
Yeah.
And like the Indiana series, if anybody really watched the game, it never seemed like it was ever Indiana was in control of any of the games. Like it always seemed like Miami was just in control. They forced their will upon that team. They were hitting their shots, which was very, very eye opening because they shot it at like a really high clip too.
Right.
They hit a lot of like 3-point shots. It showed that Jimmy Butler's really a winner, and leadership is still very dominant in the NBA.
Yeah.
But I don't know how the Heat do in the next round. I think that team goes as far as like how much their young guys mature and how much Jimmy Butler just like forces his will upon the next team.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you touched up on every subject about Miami. Every Pat Riley led team since he's been in the NBA has been built on toughness, grit, accountability, and mental toughness. And that's something that this Miami team covers across the boards. Obviously, like you said, led by Jimmy Butler. It's good to see that Jimmy just fits this system so well.
Man,
And it's good that he doesn't have as much pressure on him because now people know that he's not going to lead you to a championship. But if you put good pieces around him, he doesn't have to do as much, but he can still shine because he can still play off the ball. But like we saw, he can play in the closing moments with the ball in his hand and give you that necessary bucket in ISO situations. I mean, obviously he's surrounded by shooters, so that makes it a little easier. But I think you hit it right on the nail on the head with Miami. But I want to talk about Indiana for a little bit. Last year, when the season ended, I thought Indiana was going to be a top 3 team. Obviously, Victor Oladipo was hurt though, and it had quite a few other injuries, so that kind of derailed them. But
yeah.
I don't, as you know, they fired Nate McMillan because he has failed to move past the first round the past 4 years. But I just don't think you can use this year against Nate because he played most of the year without Victor Oladipo, and also Sabonis didn't even play in these playoffs. So they're missing their 2 best players, and
Yeah.
I just don't know. I don't know if that's the right choice because what coach are you going to get that's better than Nate McMillan right now? I mean, you could say Mark Jackson, Jeff Van Gundy, Ty Lue, maybe Sam Cassell. But I mean, these are guys that are looking at other vacancies across the league. So what are you going to get that's better than Nate McMillan right now? And so with saying that, go ahead.
No. Keep going. Please.
Okay. But I just don't know what you're going to get that's better than Nate. But if you know, you can tell me. But I just think that he should have had one more year. And also they gave Nate McMillan an extension. But also we know why they did that. They did that to kind of save face because they probably knew that they were going to fire him after this season, regardless of what happened. So that should have been the writing on the walls for the fans to see. But I like the pieces that Indiana have though. They like that, they have TJ Warren, they have Corey Joseph. They still have Miles Turner. I like what they have going on. I think they just got a bad matchup against Miami, man. That started clicking at the right time. But what do you think? Change though.
So the thing is, I think that if anybody really got a chance to catch the games, Victor Oladipo didn't look like himself as much, and he was going into the bubble. He was actually talking about not playing. So I don't know how much that really factors into it. Sabonis didn't play, so they were really like you said, they were operating kind of on just pieces that they didn't expect would do so well. The TJ Warren thing was not expected. He just came and balled out. But the next thing you know, he didn't even in the series. He didn't even do that. Like he kind of like disappeared a little bit. Credit to the Heat because they played great defense, but I think it's still a little bit on him. Like he wasn't ready for that one. But as far as what coach they can get, Nate McMillan seemed like a really good fit with them. I really liked him there. Maybe Mark Jackson because of his ties to Indiana.
Yeah.
Remember he did play with them at a point in time, and I think that he went to the I think Eastern Conference Finals, and he went to the finals with them. Yeah. So credit that, but I'm not sure if they'll actually hire him. And I kind of want to see not a fresh face, but they do need to get like a new rotation of coaches in, because like the same coaches recycling in and out is just not the best. Like you're just hoping that coaches eventually just do better, and it's just not happening.
Yeah, I agree. You know who'd be a good fit there? Patrick Ewing.
But Pat Ewing he loves Georgetown. That's his place.
I know. It'd be good to see. That'd be good to see him there, but you're right. But yeah, we'll see how Miami fares against Milwaukee in this next round. But Dre, there's another Eastern Conference series that a few people thought would be interesting, but in my opinion, I didn't see it being too interesting. It's Boston and Philly. I'll dive into this one first. You know how I feel about Philly. As you guys know, Boston swept Philly. I actually predicted Boston sweeping Philly in the series.
No, you did not predict.
I promise I did.
Oh God.
But that's because this might be a little biased, but I don't have any faith in Philly at all because of their leadership from the top down, starting with Brett Brown, going down to Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons. Now, don't get me wrong, Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid are amazing talents, but we talked about this earlier a couple months ago. I just don't think they can be successful together, man. Based upon like their mental standpoint off the court and their actual play on the court, I don't think they complement each other, man. Now, granted, Ben Simmons was hurt this series, but I just don't think that I don't think that they can be successful with the two of them together. We saw that Joel Embiid cannot lead a team by himself. We saw that today, this past series. Now, I think Joel Embiid was hurt. I don't know if he had any injury that was disclosed to the public, but like he was hurt or maybe he was sluggish, out of shape. I don't know. Something looked off about him. But they also obviously ran into a great Boston team, though. I think they made the right choice in getting rid of Brett Brown. I think it was time for a coaching change. Not necessarily to say that Brett Brown's a bad coach, but sometimes you need a different ear in the locker room, and you know that as a player, that sometimes players, they just kind of tune out the coach because he said all that he can say to the players, and sometimes it's good to have a fresh ear in that locker room. Because like there's some coaches that they can get you to one stage, but they can't take you to that championship stage. You know, there's it's a tier system for coaches, you know. So they're going to need a coach that can take them from where they are now, being Eastern Conference contenders, but now to being championship contenders. But Boston looks amazing. The ball movement looks fluid. Tatum and Brown are starting to come into their own. They're starting to fit their roles within that system. Gordon Hayward has taken a step back, which is proving well for Boston because now Marcus Smart is getting more playing time, and Marcus Smart is filling in that role where he needs to be amazingly. Kemba Walker is facilitating and creating his shot in necessary moments, primarily in the clutch. Everybody's complimenting each other well. The bigs are moving well as well on Boston. So I think this is more just good Boston as opposed to anything else. Philly might need to look forward to rebuilding. But that's just me. Trey, what do you think?
I'm gonna go against you and say that they don't need to rebuild, but I do agree with you that they do have bad leadership. Not just Brett Brown, but from management down.
Yeah.
So initially the one thing that I didn't agree with when they first started was the fact that they chose Tobias Harris over Jimmy Butler. And I was like that I just don't think that's a good I don't think that's a good feel or a good pickup. I was like, letting go of Jimmy Butler after getting him for what you did and like trading those, I don't know if it was picks or like players. I was like, I don't see how that made sense. Plus, Tobias Harris didn't play that good this year. Joel Embiid was also out of shape coming into the season. Coming into the bubble, he was also out of shape. Ben Simmons, everyone harps on him about being able to shoot, but what is this, his third year in the league? Fourth?
Third year playing, but fourth year overall.
Okay, so third year is his third year in the league, and some guy like that type of stuff takes time. He's under 20. He's under 25. Like he's going to develop that. Joel, I expect more because he can't, like every chance he gets, he's kind of out of shape. He's like he should be dominating more. And credit to Boston for just being Boston. Like they have Philly's number. They get them. They understand how to beat them. And Brett Brown I'm sorry. Yeah, Brett Brown, it might have been time for Brett Brown to go. I just don't know if he was that good of a coach to stay there.
Yeah.
Good for their rebuild, but I just don't know if he was that good for them to win. He kind of and it was evident when what was it? They won most of their game. They won all their games at home, but they lost a lot of games on the road.
Yeah. Yeah. But good
so that should
are able to win on the road, obviously.
Yeah. So that should tell you how much. That should tell you about how much Brett Brown's leadership was, and that should tell you about how much the front office was. The front office did a very terrible job to Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons. The only guy who really kind of played to his contract this year was who was their starting two?
His name's leaving my mind. He used to play in Miami.
Yeah. Josh
Richardson.
Yeah, Josh Richardson. Only one who really did as well was Josh Richardson, and for some reason they thought picking up and giving what's his name a max contract
Al Horford
was giving Al Horford a max contract was the smartest thing in the world. I don't understand that either. Yeah. But nothing against Al Horford. I don't see how it benefited them. And I think Al Horford is a great player because obviously he did great with Boston. Yeah. I just don't see how it benefited them in the long run picking up Al Horford. Right. Don't understand it. But that's Philly's management. That's their fault. And obviously we've seen it with it about this year as a whole. It was just too many question marks, too many things happened, too many too many like just holes in their game as a whole. Like holes in like their game, the system just wasn't working.
Yeah.
It was just bad all around.
Yeah.
The fact that they made it to the playoffs and did that much, I kind of understood. But that type of talent on their team, they should be a top 3 seed team, and they were 6th or 7th.
Yeah, that's a good point.
They were 6th. So Yeah, so like it shows.
Yeah. That's a good point, Trey. I have two things, and then we'll move on to the next one. Uh, you talked about Tobias Harris. Uh, can Tobias Harris be the third best player on the championship team? Yes or no? Real quick.
Ah, uh, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Like it's really hard, and he's a really good player, and that's nothing against him. I just don't know.
If you have to think about it, that gives your answer right there, right? But I have one more
Yeah,
point. So obviously they chose Tobias over Jimmy, but do you think Jimmy would have been as optimal and efficient as he is now if he stayed in Philly? What if the system just didn't fit him?
the system may not have fitted him, but like we talking about, me Will's teams. It's been evident everywhere he's won. Like everywhere he's gone, they've won. Jimmy wills teams to win, even if it's just him alone. He wills a team to win. So I think I think that helps Ben Simmons, and I think that helps Joel Embiid a lot. Like I just don't understand. Like Philly's management, I just don't understand what they do. Like their pieces just don't make sense to me.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you, man. I agree. Uh, like you said, a fish rots from the head down, and it's evident
Yeah.
really. But it's good to see Boston playing well. They're my preseason pick to make it to the finals. So we'll see how
Oh,
we'll see how that goes for them moving forward. But real quick, Dre, when we won't stay on this series too long, just because there's not much to talk about. Nothing against them, but they just were missing half the team with Toronto and Brooklyn. I had this being a
I don't
sweep.
even want. Come on.
You want to talk? You don't want to talk about it? Real
Yeah,
quick.
like
Just
because
give me a minute. You got it. Go ahead. Go into it. Go into it.
1 minute, 1 minute. I'll give you 2 minutes the whole time. No
Okay.
Kyrie, no. Yeah, 2 minutes. All right, I'll be fast. No Kyrie, no KD, no Spencer Dinwiddie, no DeAndre Jordan. They literally were missing basically 5 or 6 players out of that team. They played with D League All Stars on their team basically, or G League All Stars. Nothing against the G League players or the players that they have on that roster, but obviously it just was not good enough to beat Toronto, who was playing with their full roster. So no, I don't give Toronto any credit for beating them because they were supposed to beat them.
Right. Boston didn't have Torian Prince either, right? I mean, not Boston. Brooklyn. Sorry.
No, they didn't. They didn't have Torian Prince either. So that's another player who was a key piece for them. And then I want to say what's their shooter left.
Oh,
Like
here it is.
I think like third game because he had some that happened outside the bubble.
Yep. He left after the third game.
Yeah, he had to leave because he had something that happened outside the bubble that he had to go attend. I was like, okay, then the series is already over, but it's really over now.
Right. Right. Uh, you're right, Dre. Yeah, I don't really have much to add to that, but I do want to leave it on a little bit of a positive note about Brooklyn. Uh, Karis LeVert is playing at an all-star level, playing amazing.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, he showed that he can ball.
yeah, yeah. Um, Obviously his growth has been amazing. Injuries have set him back a little bit, but now that he's healthy, his game looks fluid. He plays well within the offense too, which is what I like. He doesn't take many dribbles to get to his shot, which is what I love. But also, I like the play of Chris Chiozza out of Florida. Uh, he played
Yeah,
obviously playing time now because all the guards are gone. But I like his game. He's a good facilitator. He doesn't turn the ball over, and he picks his spots well. He's a point guard. But yeah, that's one. That's just a few bright spots I like out of Brooklyn.
mm. What's name also played pretty well, and I think he's a great piece for them. Um, their starting center,
Uh, Jared.
uh, uh yeah, yeah. So I think he's great for them. Does he start over DeAndre Jordan? I'm not sure.
Good
but
point.
he is younger. He's probably a little more athletic now than Deandre is, but it is what it is.
Yeah. It'd be,
But that team only goes as far as KD and KD wants to go. I'm gonna say that.
but can we still agree though that KD when healthy is the best player in the league?
Yeah, he's a walking 7 foot monster. He's like regardless of anybody in the league right now, there's no one in the world that can guard Kevin Durant.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I'd agree. But okay, so that's Brooklyn. Toronto, just real quick. Toronto looks as good as you expect an NBA team to be going up against a team like Brooklyn. The real test will be how Toronto fares against Boston in the second round. But that's Toronto looks as good as it can. Yeah, that's all I got to say about them.
Yeah.
You got anything?
You said what?
So you got anything about Toronto?
Um, you can't really say anything. They weren't necessarily tested. Kyle Lowry played great. Siakam played great. Their whole starting five plus their bench played amazing. Um, One thing that was kind of eye opening was the fact that I forgot his name. I keep forgetting names. I'm sorry. Um, Starting point guard for them, not Laurie. You said what? What was it?
Fred VanVleet.
Yeah. So Van Fleet, I played absolutely like a monster, and he's definitely playing like he's playing for that contract. Like they found the absolute gem in him by how it looks right now. And man, if he plays like that against Boston, I think that'll be a long series. I'm not sure which way it goes, but it'll be a good one.
I agree. Um, yeah, not much else to say about that. So we'll just keep it pushing.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the Western Conference, Dre. We've got 2 Game 7s that are going to be happening tonight and tomorrow. Tonight, Denver and Utah are going to be playing in Game 7. Now, initially, I had picked Denver in 6 to win this series. Obviously, my prediction was wrong. But I picked that because I knew that Mike Conley was not going to be playing those first 2 games for Utah. So I expected Denver to take advantage of that and pressure up on Donovan Mitchell, force him to get pass the ball out of his hands. But what we've seen is that Donovan Mitchell normally is shooting when he comes off the ball with those high ball screens. And he's been very efficient against the basket, hitting his free throws, being a good playmaker. And he had 50 points game 1. He's averaging like 34 or something, 37, sorry, for the series.
Oh.
Yeah, crazy. But Dre, I'll let you tackle this one, man. What are you thinking? What's your prediction?
All right, man. So my prediction initially, I had the Jazz winning in 7.
Okay.
If anyone knows me, they know that I'm a big Donovan Mitchell fan. Shout out to Louisville. So like shout out to the Cards. That is the reason why like I was like I've always heard that his I think they said his ceiling. I remember one of the day he got drafted, they said his ceiling was he's Dwayne Wade with a 3-point jump shot. And I was like, that actually fits very well. I was like, that's very him.
Yes.
So the fact that he made that All-Star jump this year and he's been playing great, I think speaks a lot about him. And like the Jamal Murray Donovan Mitchell matchup has been amazing to watch.
Yeah.
And Gobert versus any of the center for Denver, another amazing matchup to watch.
Yeah.
The emergence of Michael Porter is another one. Shout out to Porter. He's from Columbia, but that is like one of the big things. So like the series, I feel like was gonna go 7, and it was gonna come down to like the last possession. That's how I'm thinking. But I do think the Jazz will win. I have the Jazz winning.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I think Mitchell will pull out another 50-point game, and we'll end it for him.
At the buzzer.
At the buzzer, however you want it, at the buzzer, at the free throw line, whatever is needed to be done, they'll win. They'll find a way to pull it out.
Okay. That's interesting. I'm more interested in how Jamal Murray has been playing. As you know, I was really critical of Jamal Murray last year in the playoffs. I thought that he was forcing the issue a lot last year, but what I've seen this year is that he's a lot more efficient in his playmaking. Now, when he comes off those ball screens and when he's getting downhill at the bucket, his first option is to score, but he's become more of a willing passer is what I've seen. And I think that makes Jokic more efficient as well, because when you get Murray going downhill, Jokic is obviously open because his man has stuff off on him, on Murray. And Jokic is getting easier plays. And when Jokic gets easier buckets, Jokic gets in the flow. And when Jokic is in the flow, the ball movement in Denver just starts to move around much more fluid, more rapidly. And like you said, Michael Porter Jr. takes some pressure off of Jamal Murray and the other wing players like Beasley and
Beasley, no more. Harris and I think Monte Morris is starting now also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you said, Gary Harris as well. But I had Denver winning this in 6. I'll have Denver winning this in game 7. I don't think it'll be that close. If it is a close game, I'll be very surprised. But I'm more interested to see the next round matchup between either of these two teams and the Clippers, whoever wins. But yeah, that's what I saw, and I think it'll be a great game 7 to watch, like you said. But the other game 7, OKC and Houston.
It could be a better matchup. I'm so happy that like matchup's happening.
This is all about narrative, bro. Like, you couldn't write a better But before the series started, I had OKC in 7.
Oh, really? You did?
Yes, I did. But that's because Russ, I knew Russ was going to miss the first couple of games. And what I've noticed from game 5 to game 6 is that they're almost walling up Russ the same way you'd wall up Giannis. And then, and OKC is doing a good job of not fouling as well and sliding their feet, which leads to less free throws for Houston and James Harden, which means that, he won't be able to score as much and get in a rhythm as easily. And also, the size of OKC has been killing Houston, even though Houston is actually the number 1 defensive team in the playoffs at this point.
Yeah.
But I think it also comes down to CP. CP has been a maestro at the point guard position. I think OKC plays best when they're in the half-court set, actually. That's just my opinion, because they're able to take advantage of the size they have. Shai Gilgeous has been very efficient and much more effective with his shot as opposed to last season in the playoffs. And I like the way OKC looks right now with Steven Adams as well, and the young brother that's been guarding James Harden, the rookie from Canada. His name is slipping me right now, but you guys can correct me.
Lou Dort.
Yes, he's been playing well. He's getting very physical with James Harden, which is what James Harden is not used to, which is kind of throwing him out of his rhythm. But that's what I've seen. I have OKC winning it in 7. Dre, what'd you see, and what do you have?
So I'm not gonna lie to you. I did have at first I thought OKC would win, but then I realized Harden is Harden, so I was like, nah. I'm gonna say OKC. I'm gonna say Rockets in 6. Right. I honestly thought they'd do it in 6. I just thought that, the small ball that they were gonna do would be just like too much, and it'd be so fast paced and just so much so much running, and it's nothing but threes going up. I'm like, all right, that's a Rockets like offense, and that's just a win for them.
Right.
But then after watching the series, it's been some of that, but um, when the Rockets are hot, they're hot. When they're not, it's like, all right, so what's about to happen?
Yeah.
And to be honest, the Rockets are actually relying on their defense a little bit more than their offense, creating a lot of stops, being chaotic on defense. They
Mhm.
actually remind me a lot of that 15 Warriors a little bit. Not like play style, but defensive wise, who small ball playing like really fast, long at every position and like arms out. So like not height wise super tall, but guard wise super long and super wiry, like grabbing everything out the air, deflections. That like I like their defensive style. I like that about them. I thought in Game 6, since Russ was coming back, that he wouldn't necessarily like force the issue. It would be like he'd let the game come to him. But Russ being Russ, nothing against Russ. He's one of the hardest working people in the NBA, one of the hardest working NBA athletes on the floor, bar none. But he does have games where he'll have like a blimp of like just a minute of like, yo, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like you'll ask that in the game, like literally watching the game, you'll just be like, what are you doing? Like, why are you doing that?
Right.
So it happens. Can't follow them. Like it's something that you got to take with Russ. Um, Now as far as Game 7's happening, I'm gonna pick. I don't know, and I guess I'm picking them more for the ratings in the next round. I'm gonna pick the Rockets, but it wouldn't surprise me if CP3 found a way to win.
Okay. Nice. Okay. I'll just leave it on this note, Dre. Uh, Russell Westbrook hasn't been past the first round since 2016.
That was since Katie left.
Yep. Now, I, you guys know how I feel about Russ. Like you said, Dre is a great player. I just don't think he can be the best player on a championship team. I think that he needs to develop his skill set and that he's relied a lot on his athleticism in his career. I think he'll be a better player when he starts to lose his athleticism. But we see what's happening now. I mean, he had 7 points, I think, in Game 5, and he didn't play too well in Game 6 either. But we'll
So,
see what happens. But I'll just say that Russ hasn't been past the first round since 20.
oh,
That's all I'm gonna say.
hey, funny stat. So, a friend of mine he's a huge Russell Westbrook fan. I think it was Game 5. They won Game 5, right? So he told me, he said Game 5. He's like, I was so embarrassed about this. He was like, it was the first time that Russ didn't record a turnover, and he said in like four years or something like that, or like 3 years. He said that was the first game that Russ had never recorded a turnover, and
Wow.
it was because he had what I think like 10 points, like 6 assists, and like some rebounds. But he said, and that was like a low game for us, and he said, I don't know how that happened. He's like, but it's ridiculous how that stat is like that was a legit stat.
Yeah. Yeah. You hit it on the head, man. That right there says enough. That right there says enough about it. But
That's
yeah, but it'll be interesting to see who the Lakers are matched up with out of those two teams. I think for ratings, it'd be good to see Houston, but I have OKC winning. But we'll move on to our last series. Uh, Another series that wasn't too too eventful in terms of basketball. In terms of with Milwaukee and Orlando. Now, Dre, you want to start with this one?
okay. So props to Orlando winning the first game.
Yeah.
I think every because I looked at the spread for that game, and Milwaukee was a 15-point favorite. If no one knew, if people don't realize what that is a blowout margin of victory. Like very bad. So props to them winning that first game. Um, but after that, it was like the Bucks realized like who they were, and they were like, okay, let me like let's play. and whatever game plan they really thought of, whatever the game plan or the Magic had initially, kind of fell through after that. It didn't really work out for them.
Right.
Giannis played MVP caliber. His supporting cast did very well. Middleton played like the second best player on that team.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just think, I don't know, like something about that team wants to scream special, but I'm not so sure all the way yet.
Yeah. I'd agree with you, Dre. You hit every point that I was going to talk about. Orlando played well without Aaron Gordon, and I believe they're missing someone else. Jonathan Isaac. Sorry, yeah, Jonathan Isaac.
Yeah.
So they played well without them. I had predicted Milwaukee in 5, so Orlando got the 1 win. But I think we're seeing the same thing, Dre, with Milwaukee, and you can tell me what you see, but what I'm seeing is that teams are figuring out how to play against Giannis, which is throwing Giannis out of rhythm. And when that happens,
Yeah.
it throws the whole offense for Milwaukee out of rhythm. Because a lot of those guys are feeding off of Giannis because they're relocating on his drives to get to the open spots. But what they're doing is they're throwing Giannis off on where they're walling him off at. And so Giannis is making wrong reads on those skip passes. And so now those shots, he can't get the ball to those shooters, which is throwing them out of rhythm. Also, Chris Middleton is not able to be efficient because the spacing is off with Giannis on the court. But defensively, Milwaukee still looks good, one of the best teams in the league, which is what I like to see out of them. But if I was a Milwaukee fan, I'd be worried to see how they fare in the second round. But for the first round, Milwaukee looked good for playing against the Orlando team, but something's off. Something's off.
Yeah. I don't know what it is about them, but it's just something about that team that just looks off. It's not all the way there.
Yeah, I agree. It's not the supporting cast. Well, it is the supporting cast, but that's because of the way teams are playing Giannis. And if you look at it, Giannis is shooting 65% from the free throw line right now. Now,
Yeah.
I don't think that's mechanics. I think that's nerves, honestly, man.
But the thing is, so we talk about it. Shooting is a lot mental as it is mechanical.
Yeah.
So he's mentally probably in his own head, and we forget that Giannis is not 30 or 31 yet. Giannis is still like 20, 26. Like he's still young.
Yeah.
So like the fact that he's won an MVP and the fact that he's getting his team nearly to the finals, like this is very impressive. Like it's very good.
Yeah, for sure. And Dre, I want to say a point real quick, but before we move forward, ESPN does a very good job of creating narratives. We talked about podcasts, and you see, like since 2018 or even 2017, honestly, they've been building up Giannis to be this great player, which he is. But what they do is they give these players so much attention and so much praise in the beginning that the standard is raised for that player. And when that player doesn't fit those high expectation standards, ESPN starts to tear them down so they can bring in a new star player. Now, like you said, Giannis is barely 24. He might even be 23. He's so young. He really hasn't hit his prime yet. And
he hasn't touched it yet.
Yeah, and it's way too early to be knocking him down now. It's way too early to be giving him this much criticism because we know why they're doing it, because they're building up the stage for the next star already. That's just how ESPN and a lot of these networks work. It just is what it is. But as a basketball analyst and someone who watches the game, you guys have to realize that Giannis has not hit his prime yet. He is still learning, and he's great for his age right now. Like Dre said, the mechanics are going to be fixed, but these are the growing pains that need to be had, because Dre, this is his second or third year being a top seed. So he's still young. He's still new to this, man. So I say it's time, man. Just give it time. Don't follow that narrative.
Facts.
Yeah. But that's with that being said, Dre, we talked about Milwaukee and Orlando being having much interest on the basketball court, but off the court, we know there is much going on within that escape. Started with that series as the catalyst. Milwaukee chose to not play in Game 5 initially. They sat out due to the shooting of Jacob Blake in Wisconsin. He was shot 7 times in the back. As you know, the video came out, people saw it, and that sit out by Milwaukee led to other teams in the NBA sitting out their playoff games, which led to other leagues having teams in their own league, sit out and protest of the shooting as well. Dre, this is a pretty broad topic, but we'll break it down bit by bit. I'll start out with it, and then you can just follow suit.
Yeah.
You know how I feel about protests like these. If you're going to protest, there has to be an agenda for what you're doing, how you're going to do it,
yeah,
how long you're going to do it, things of that nature. And one thing that I was worried about is that, so if you're going to sit out a game, right, like Milwaukee, like these teams did, so what's the next step? So you sit out, and then what? Now you go back to playing, which is what happened. Now, not to say that they shouldn't have protests or anything like that. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying is that you have to have a purpose. You have to have a goal. Now, what I believe what happened is that Milwaukee. Now they sat out a team meeting for 3 hours before they chose to sit out. I think it was they based that decision based off of emotion. They felt like they needed to do that. But the rest of the league was actually upset. Well, primarily LeBron James was upset with Milwaukee for not constellating with the rest of the league, because now what happens is, like you said, Dre, that now everyone sees Milwaukee doing this. So now they think to themselves, okay, maybe I should do this too. Maybe I should sit out so I don't look bad. And it starts to create like a hive mind sort of set. But if they feel like if you feel the need to sit out, then that's what they should have done. But I just don't think they really had an end goal. Now I say that because we know like LeBron has a voting like reform and registration set up. He has like a platform that he's using, right? But so what's the goal? So what are you trying to achieve with this protesting? With that form of protesting, are you trying to get insight on voter registration? Are you trying to shed light on policy reform? What's the goal? And that's all I have to say on that aspect. But speaking of LeBron, I feel like LeBron, people might disagree with me, but the reason LeBron was so upset is because he wasn't the first to do it. LeBron wasn't the first to protest, and so now Milwaukee's getting all the credit, and LeBron is upset. Not saying that LeBron is disingenuous or anything, but knowing LeBron, I think LeBron's just upset he didn't get to do it first. I think that's how it came across to me, because if you're sincere about the protesting, then wouldn't you be happy that someone else is doing it as well and that you don't have to be the catalyst for it? That's just my mindset. But I mean, people might disagree. It is what it is. But but like I said, LeBron has a platform set up for voter registration for moments like this, which I applaud him for. But in terms of sitting out, as you know, Dre, right now the bubble is probably the most watched sporting event right now in the world. That platform is causing players to have a lot of recognition and a lot of eyes on them. And so for them to sit out and not play, or perhaps leave the bubble like they were initially thinking, you take that spotlight, you take that bubble away, and you take that platform away from you that could be used for good. And what I say is that don't leave this is obviously we're speaking in hindsight, but don't leave your platform. Use that platform. You can still play, in my opinion. You can still play, but use that platform to spread your message while still having your platform. Because, Dre, tell me what you think about this. If we use George Hill, for example. So if we're under normal circumstances, there's no COVID, no bubble, and this time of year, there's no NBA. So let's say this incident happens, the unfortunate shooting of Jacob Blake occurs, and George Hill is doing trying to spread awareness for it, right? He's not going to get the same recognition because the spotlight isn't on him this time of year, quite frankly. There's other things on. So he used his platform for good in this moment because he knows the eyes are on him. And so that's the mindset that they have to have, like knowing that all eyes on you. Use it to spread your message, because if you get rid of your platform, you lose your message, and now people aren't listening to you, and now your goal isn't being achieved. But I just have a couple more things to add to this as well. If you are going to use your platform, I think it would be good to spread awareness in hindsight on voter registration and voting in your local elections, so you can get people in that can create new reforms and new policies at the local level. And then you move forward to the national level, however you feel, how you want to vote on that. But I think it does start in the local level. But I will say that. But also, isn't it interesting that Kyrie talked about not playing in the bubble because for protesting before everyone got in the bubble, and everyone ridiculed him, right? Now, Kyrie said some other stuff as well that I agree with in terms of, black athletes forming their own league. I agree with that as well. But Kyrie primarily saying, like, they shouldn't be playing the bubble right now. It's going to be taken away from protesting. Now, this is before they had the platform. But now, but everyone gave him a hard time on that. But now, all of a sudden, everyone wanted to do it. You see what I'm saying? There's just no consistency, which makes it seem, not as a whole, but some people, I'm not going to say, not even specific people, but it just seems some people seem disingenuous with the protesting because of things like that occur.
Yeah, no, I understand that.
But what are your thoughts, man?
No, like as far as the Kyrie factor, I completely agree. People kind of made fun of him about that, and they were like, "Oh, why would you even think of something like that? Like you guys don't even make that type of money, like stuff like that." And I'm just like, dude, I was like, you don't realize that they have all the spotlight in the world. All you need is a couple different things. I was like, they pretty much got what they need to make their own league, or to even buy their own team if they really wanted to. Like you never know what could happen. Another thing is, what was gained from that, the players kind of sitting out and like doing that protest. I'm not sure, but there were certain things that I know, I can't remember like specifics, but there were certain things that the NBA after that had promised that they would do with like money wise.
Yes.
that I don't remember. I'm sorry that I don't remember specifically what they wanted. But I know one of it had.
I have that list if you want to read it off to you.
You got that list? Yeah. Can you read that for me?
Yeah. So it was 3 social justice commitments that were agreed upon by the NBAPA and the NBA. The first one was to immediately establish a social justice coalition with representatives from players, coaches, and owners that will focus on a broad range of issues. The second commitment was to convert team arenas into voting locations for the 2020 general election. The third one was to add spots in playoff games that promote civic engagement and raising awareness around voter access and opportunities. So like that, like you said, what's the end goal? What are we trying to achieve right now?
Yeah. So like that type of stuff, like the the election and everything like that is coming up, and there's being talks about, I'm getting into specifics about the politics and stuff like that. But it was like voter suppression and stuff like that. But you see that no other league thought about it or even like touched it until the NBA started talking about it or did it. So not only are they like, in my opinion, they're sort of a trendsetter, but they're also like taking that forefront as a league. Granted, you're we're not like, let's be honest, your whole league is black. Like, you would want to do that for your players. They're how you're making money.
Yeah.
So like how I don't know, with the protesting of this week, I'm not sure how much more they can get out of that, because they do deal with owners directly, I would think, because of the NBA and the NBAPA.
Mm-hmm.
So how things might, you never know, like something else might might happen again where they want to do something else. Like, the NBA should go ahead and make a trust fund for inner city youth of like these certain places. Like, you just never know.
Yeah.
But I'm an optimist. I'm not a realist, so I'm hoping that more things are being done. And like you said, I think this is a very good time for people to realize, like, okay, um, let me make sure like my local government can I can affect that, and that's like make my vote count in that way. Because once you affect local government, then the more broader things like nationally, things will be changed.
Yeah. Agreed.
And like we talked about, these are some of the things that we talk about off camera. Most people don't even know who their senator, like one of the state senators, or their mayor, or maybe even their governor. Like, they can't even tell you who their governor is.
Yeah.
So like, that's, to me, that's a problem, because those are all the main people who really affect you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we say you should go out and vote. Like, educate yourself on these things.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
But
Like,
no, please, but go ahead.
I was gonna say, like you said, educate yourself, do your own research, do your own information, and don't just follow what you're seeing on social media or on the news, whatever your outlet is. Do your own research and come to your own conclusion on how you want to spread awareness or how you want to change your community. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. But but I mean, I think it was a good gesture. I think that it's good that there was a roadmap that was come to by the protests. Now there's a goal that they want to achieve through those three commitments. But it'll be interesting to see moving forward. I just think that the other leagues doing it just seem kind of disingenuous to me. I'll be honest.
It is very.
But it's interesting to see how some people respond to the protest or respond to things like this. Like we talked about the Kyrie thing, like how some people change their mind just so quickly. But we'll leave it at that, man. But I'm glad to see that more people are being aware of voter registration. That is a good thing, especially in the Black community, um, especially at the local level. But yeah, Dre, if you don't have anything else to add, man, that's all we got. That's all we got today, man. Did you want to add anything
Oh,
else?
for you to say. No, I don't have anything. Oh, please, everybody. I think everyone should do this. Um, check out. Oh, I'm sorry. That's what I'm thinking about. Um, we had a very sad passing this week of Chadwick Boseman. Condolences to him and his family. Um, I know that, especially for my younger cousins, going to see some of his movies, like 42 or the Black Panther movie, that was like a big thing for them. Um, it's kind of sad to see something like this happen, especially with cancer, especially something that he necessarily couldn't control. Very sad. So sad to hear. Condolences to his family also.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Also, the recent passing of John Thompson and Cliff Robinson as well. Two people that were essential to the game of basketball. condolences to their families and to their loved ones. Yeah, definitely interesting times right now, but still our hearts go out to them. Dre, do you have any shout outs that you want to give today?
Okay. Shout out to all of the people that support us. You guys are the best. I want to give a great shout out to one of my best friends. He started his own business. He opened up his store, and it is very eco-friendly. It's something about like beeswax and stuff like that. Like it can be essential. It could, instead of using like tinfoil and like wasting it, it's something that could be reused, and helping the environment. I can't give you his handle right now. I can't remember off the top of my head. Maybe it's something that we could add in later on. But shout out to him. So definitely want to support Black businesses. Help out with that.
Nice. Okay, good. Shout out to the Tatiana Jasmine YouTube channel. Shout out to the Nerdy in Many Ways YouTube channel. And like Dre said, shout out to you guys, the fans, not only on our YouTube channel, but also on our Patreon channel. The people that support us, we love it. None of this could be done without you guys. I know these are tough times right now, but we have to remember to be there for each other and love one another and just be that mental support system for each other, especially in these tough times. We'll be back again within the next 1 to 2 weeks, depending on our schedules. We'll definitely have more content coming out for you guys. But that's all we got for today, guys. Continue to stay safe. And until next time, guys, peace.